But between now and then, let me get my guest on the show here. His name is Dan Arel. I've had Dan on in the past, well, especially when the state of Kentucky proposed the Commonwealth to give $18 million in tax incentives to build the giant Ark, which is going to open. They're having their grand opening in as to when this thing's going to exactly open, but they're building it as we speak. And Dan Arel joins me now. It's probably one of the area's most prominent atheists. Dan, good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Is it you look at this thing and go, that's a victory for me, or does it bother you as an atheist that these guys are able to put a giant Ark together?
Yeah, as an atheist, it doesn't really bother me that they're able to build it. They have every right to build it. I have personal philosophical objections to the park, but in the grand scheme of things, they don't matter. I just won't visit the park.
Now, you believe what you believe. Christians believe what Christians believe, and you keep that. What put you on the radar, though, is when Kentucky promised $18 million in tax incentives, and it was you who did the research. You were the one who were beating this drum to try and get the Commonwealth to pull out of that. And for those listening, explain the process through that, exactly what your research uncovered.
Sure. So, I heard that they were getting an $18 million tax incentive, and that just smelled kind of fishy to me. A obvious Ark Encounter is going to be a Christian-themed park, but at the same time, it seemed like they were following all the laws. They were going to follow employment laws, et cetera, et cetera. But when I went on their website and clicked on employment, they had very strict employment rules that you must believe in their version of creationism. You must sign a statement claiming that you do. But then what the real big tell was is that it's Ark Encounter, LLC, not a nonprofit such as the museum that they own.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's a massive church and state separation issue. You can't ask the state for tax, money or rebates, and then enforce your religious beliefs. That's just not the kind of country we run. That's the Constitution says not to do it. So I had a friend who qualified for that job as a CAD designer to apply. And he applied, and they replied back, loving his resume, but said, you need to fill out this paperwork and sign the statement of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I took all that information to Americans United for the separation of church and state. And we started kind of looking at our options, and we wrote a letter to the, Governor Beshear, and it worked.
Yeah, and the interesting part about it is the state said, well, no, this is not for the management of the museum; it's for the building of the museum, the tax incentives alike. And then I know it got into, I don't even want to say a prolonged a court battle, because that wasn't the case at all. So the state of Kentucky just said, all right, you know what, you're right, we're going to drop it. But here's the good news, because I remember having you on and talking about this at the time, Dan, is that I said at the end of the day, like-minded Christians are going to get together and make up that $18 million difference, and probably even more so. And here we are now on the 11th of November, or 12th of November, 2015, and they're having a press conference to set the opening date, which is probably going to be sometime in early spring, late summer. And so the fact the $18 million in tax incentives went away didn't stop them from achieving their objective.
No, and, my goal was never to actually stop them from opening the park. It was just to stop them from using tax dollars to do so, because as they had said in early press conferences that they were going to build the park in two phases. The first phase would be complete with the money they had, and then after they got their tax rebate of $18 million, they could launch into the second phase of the park. Now they're going to have to do it all with donations, which is how it should have been done in the first place.
So you're never going to go check this out. I think, quite honestly, because I think the behind the scenes, I've been seeing these guys make like pigs and goats for the Ark and all this other stuff. It looks pretty cool, actually. It looks like there's a tremendous amount of skill put into this thing. And I admire good handiwork, good craftsmanship, Dan.
If I get invited, I'll go. I can't give them my money to go. I don't.
Hey, but that's isn't that part of the problem, though? I mean, okay, I get it. It's a personal thing for you, but at the same point, it's like, if you guys are doing something cool, some atheist Christmas parade or whatever it is, I know, the amazing tales of Dr. Druid, whatever it is, I'd go, yeah, I'm an atheist, but I could check that out. I'll give you some money. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I have a bit of a problem with a theme park that really is celebrating the mass genocide of society. Even though I don't believe it actually happened, that's the theme park is representing a really terrible event in reality. If it really did happen, that means that millions, if not billions, of people and animals were drowned to death.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the greatest.
Yeah, but look, I think, we can make a case we did pretty good.
A
hell of an ark.
If you were to say the story was true, yeah, we did pretty good.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, I got to roll. Thanks so much for joining, recapping what's going on here, and see everybody wins. That's the moral of the story here. Everybody wins. Dan, have a great day. Thanks again. Appreciate it. Dan Arel on the show on 700.